Hi, good evening, everyone, and selamat sore to all those joining us from Indonesia. And very honored to be here. So, without wasting any time, I'd just like to give a brief introduction to Pak Sarwono, whom I have covered and reported on since 1998. Yeah. Pak Sarwono is the chairman of the Advisory Board for Climate Change Policies with the Republic of Indonesia's Ministry of Environment and Forestry. He's a household name in Indonesia, given his long record of social activism as well as political engagement. Pak Sarwono served as the Environment Minister under President Suharto. His subsequent ministership was somewhat prophetic. In 1986, during a chat with the prominent Muslim cleric Abdul Rahman Wahid of Nahdlatul Ulama, out of the blue, Wahid said, "One day I will be the president. I will appoint you minister to take care of our seas." At that time, Pak Sarwono didn't pay much heed to that. And 13 years later, in 1999, Wahid was indeed elected president, and he made Pak Sarwono his Minister of Marine Affairs and Fisheries. You can read that on page 210 in his book. And it is this spirit of activism and engagement which we want to spur others, particularly the youths of today, to take on an active role in the issues facing the global community. Without much further ado, Pak Sarwono, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Amy. Can you all hear me? Honorable Mr. Ang Boon Hyung, CEO of Temasek Foundation, Minister Siti Nurbaya, thank you for your kind words and your brief but to the point explanation on the ministry's policies. The Honorable Minister Desmond Lee, State Minister Amikor, Ambassador Anil Kumar Nayar, Ambassador Suryo Pratomo, Mas Tommy, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Can I have the link, please, to the share screen? Well, I'll just continue. I'd like to touch on briefly on the title of the book. First question is, of course, what is the middle course? In a general sense, middle course is the habitat of a middle roader, a centrist. But there is a specific definition of that, which I will touch on later during my talk. The second question is, what is so special about being the first civilian Secretary General of Golkar? It is the first step in the further development of Golkar as a competitive political party of the post-Suharto era. I'll also explain further about this later. And the second issue is, what are the milestones in my life? In early childhood, Minister Nurbaya has just commented on the how the environment that I was brought up in. But I'd like to also mention something about myself. During my first years as a child, I was born clumsy. I was born accident-prone, so I lost my self-confidence. But then, after my father had died, my uncle, who was appointed as the Indonesian ambassador to Yugoslavia, asked my mother her permission to take me to Europe to join his family. And I was very glad to be joining that family because it was a rare thing for any Indonesian at that time to travel abroad. And so I ended up in Belgrade. And after a few months, I was told by my uncle, Dr. Sudarsono, or Om Son as we call him, that he saw in me somebody who had untapped talents. And the only way to expose those talents is to have me thrown into the sea, like that, to be plunged into the unknown. And then I found myself going to school in England at the public house, not speaking English, not knowing anybody, no members of the family to hang on to. And that triggered something in me that I was even not aware with. And after 2.5 years in King's School, I did very well, majoring in the humanities in such a way that the headmaster, Mr. James Mosey, implored me to stay on. Because as he said in his farewell words to me, what would become of you if you went home now? And then I went to Jakarta. I switched majors. I switched to what in Indonesia is called the exact sciences, mathematics, chemistry, physics, and biology. That was also a challenge for me to switch majors, but I succeeded. And then I applied to the Bandung Institute of Technology in the School of Civil Engineering. And I spent a quiet time studying between 1963 and 1965. But then, as we all know, Indonesia got the very traumatic years of conflict when Sukarno was forced to resign and General Suharto rose as the new president of Indonesia. And I became a politician after the Siliwangi Division commander in Bandung gave us a very difficult choice. He said, you young people, you're either with us or against us. Make up your mind. So after consultations with my friends, we decided to heed the commander's call, so to speak. And we found ourselves becoming parliamentary candidates in 1971. But we were hoping that we wouldn't be joining the new parliament because we were too young, because we were ranked very low in the candidates list. But surprisingly, Golkar won 67% of the votes in West Java, and we found ourselves elevated to electability and ended up in parliament. Now, I'd like to address something which is probably very interesting for you. What is unique in my life in politics? Well, when I entered parliament, I was, frankly speaking, not knowing what to do. And I found out that the life of an activist is so much easier than the life of a politician. And as a politician, I gradually learned, and my friends also, that it's very important to communicate. Communicating with clarity, believability, and trust building is very important. It's very important to innovate and to be original so as to open people's eyes and open their hearts as well. And again, trustworthiness is also important. And it is also important to network effectively. And networking can only be done if people trust you and will volunteer to cooperate with you. So the next, what are the lessons in life to be passed on to the future generations? I'd say that it's very important for anybody of any generation to stick to values. It's an absolute must. And if you stick to values, then the product is integrity. The second lesson is that life is not linear. It's full of surprises, pitfalls, serendipity. To give you an example, if one looks at my biography, it would look as if I were climbing the social ladder step by step, consistently to almost to the very top. In practice, it's not the case. Yeah, it's full of surprises, as I said, pitfalls, serendipity, and sometimes you feel that your own personal security was a threat. Yeah, but then maybe I'm lucky. I survived those years, and then doing the right thing is also important vis-a-vis doing things right, because doing things right means that you are in a business as usual road, and it's different, yeah, with do the right thing. Do the right thing means that what you do is dictated by your values and your integrity. And the following is that we have to turn risks into opportunities. That's the only way to go. Now, back to the politics of Golkar. I learned that I was entrusted with the position of Secretary General Golkar at the direction of Pak Harto, the president, after I'd been subjected to an intelligence surveillance for 3 years by General Benny Murdani. And I got a hint from Benny that I would be the next Secretary General. I didn't pay any attention to those words at that time, but when I did become a Secretary General of Golkar, I went to him, to ask for what the hell is going on? Why am I there? And Benny said, you ask Harto, because it was he who told me, to make you the Secretary General of Golkar. And the subsequent months after meeting with the seniors of Golkar at Pak Harto's residence, and in those meetings, I was the only civilian present. They were all armed forces officers, high officers. It turns out that my appointment had something to do with a long-term plan by Golkar, by the military, to graduate Golkar as a full-fledged political party of the future. Before, Golkar was the junior partner of the armed forces in politics. And Suharto said, when we are not here anymore, we will have a multi-party system, and Golkar would have to be evolved to be able to compete with new parties whose names we don't even know yet. And this young man, Sarwono, hopefully he can understand what he has to do in Golkar to achieve that. We old people, we don't have the capacity to understand the future. That's what he said. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'll now give to Amy again the floor. Thank you.